Hello everyone, and thanks Jeff for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me along today to this rather grand building to see you all. I've been doing events like this over the past 3 years from the box room in my bedroom at home on, on computers and staring into screens, which, you know, we've all been in that place and we've all been having to do that and just get through. But to be honest, it's really nice actually seeing you all in person today, coming down to London and interacting with people and having these conversations as a group like this. It works really well when actually we get together as people, not as digital avatars on computers, to be able to do these events. So thank you for inviting me along to it. As Jeff said, I work for CITB. I've been at CITB for about 5 years now. My current role is Head of Strategic Engagement, so what I do is I work with groups like yourself, like IOC, with Jeff, with the Construction Leadership Council, with government through the Construction Skills Delivery Group, and various other stakeholders to come up with joint plans about how we can address the construction skills challenges that we've got as a country together, with multiple different stakeholders and multiple different groups. So my role is to try and get all these different groups to be working in the same direction, so we're addressing the priority issues together as one. So just to cover what I'm going to go through today, what I'll do is I'll go through all the presentation, but then happy to take any questions or discussions at the end of the presentation. So initially I'll just have a quick run through of the construction skills landscape, so the context of where we are at the moment, then discuss with you, well, what are we doing to address these challenges? What is the Construction Leadership Council doing, and what is the CITB doing, and finally give you an introduction about how you can actually get involved and help support some of the schemes that we have. So kicking things off, let's look at what the current construction skills landscape is like. These are some headline figures from the Construction Skills Network document. CITB puts together the CSN on a yearly basis, and what it does, it forecasts the construction skills landscape for the next 5 years. So that's a really good document that if you haven't already seen it, please do download it online. It's available on our website. It comes out every year at around about Easter time, and it future gazes into the next 5 years and gives you a good indication of what construction output's going to be like, but also an understanding of, do we have the skills in place to build what we've got projected in this construction output. These are a few headline figures from the current CSN document, which covers 2023 all the way through to 2027. So the first figure on there is that by 2027, we're going to need to attract another 224,000 workers into the construction industry. That's on top of the recruitment that we've got at the moment. And that's to build the projected construction output that we've got planned for the next 5 years. So you can see that challenge there, that we need that 250,000 people into our industry. If they're not in, we can't build what we've got, you know, in the pipeline to be able to build. The second headline there is construction. Over the past few years, growth has been difficult in construction. We had the pandemic that hit construction. We then had the Ukraine war that hit the pipeline of construction materials and energy costs, so growth has been sluggish. However, over the next 5 years, we are expected to return into growth, steadily, slowly at first, but UK-wide growth across every region in the UK. Those sectors listed there, those are the top 3 pinch points for skills that we're expecting. So those are the sectors where we're expecting growth, but we just know that the pipeline of skills isn't coming through. So those are the 3 sectors: private housing, infrastructure, and repair and maintenance, where we're really expecting the skills problems to really occur in those areas. So probably appropriate for the audience today with joinery, carpentry, woodworking, private housing, and repair and maintenance. 2 of those are really the areas that we're expecting to have skills problems. By 2027, what we're expecting is that the construction workforce, so everyone working in construction, we're expecting about 2.67 million people working in construction, so a massive driver of the UK economy, construction, and a massive employer that's really important to UK PLC. This is just a breakdown of when I said we are returning to growth over the past 2 years in construction. This is a breakdown of what we're expecting in construction output per sector over the next 5 years. Clearly things, times change. Sometimes there's a lot of infrastructure projects, sometimes there's a lot of housing projects. So this is what we're expecting over the next 5 years. You can see that blue column at the end, that's the total work, and we're expecting total growth to be at 1.5% in construction over the next 5 years. You can see that breakdown in there. Some of the biggest sectors that we're looking at for growth in is infrastructure, which is 2.8%. There's a lot of big infrastructure projects happening, motorway upgrades, HS2, that we are expecting a lot of demand in infrastructure. Commercial, and then housing, both private housing and public housing, and that's new build housing. What's interesting is one of the lowest growth sectors at 0.1% is repair and maintenance and housing. So although we're expecting a lot of new build, we're not expecting as much in terms of repair and maintenance within that. So again, it's just an interesting breakdown for you to understand the sectors that we're expecting growth in within construction. I'll skip that one. What's interesting now from this is then we compare that to skills. So if we've got a lot of construction output, a lot of projects happening, we really need skills in place to actually be able to build these projects that are going through planning at the moment. So what this diagram shows is on the right-hand side, you've got what's that ARR column. That's the annual recruitment level. So the higher that is, the higher is the skills demand, the skills pinch point is. So you can see the top occupation there, which is wood trades and interior fit out. The annual recruitment for that is that we need another 5,000 new joiners in wood trades and interior fit out every year just to meet the demand for the construction output that we're expecting. So that's the highest of the list. So this is the top 5 of the lists where we're facing skills challenges. So as you can see, wood trades and interior fit out is at the top of that because we need 5,000 people per year to be joining. What's interesting, if you look at total employment is expected to be around about the same in interior trades and interior fit out. In 5 years, it's around about that 242,000. The problem is that there are so many people leaving. So over the next 5 years, there are so many people retiring from that occupation that's where the pinch point comes. So we really need to get going and making sure that we've got enough people coming in, attracting new entrants, which it's really good to see today that we have got younger generations in the room that I think are coming through as the ageing demographic, people start to retire, we've got people in to start taking those roles. So what is it that we're actually doing about this? So how are we trying to address these skills challenges? So two of the main bodies that I work with are the Construction Leadership Council, and Jeff is heavily involved with everything that we do at the CLC, as well as CITB, obviously, working on our business plan. Within the Construction Leadership Council, what we do on a yearly basis is develop the industry skills plan. We developed the first one in 2021, and the purpose of this document is to come out on a yearly basis to give direction to the whole of industry. So all of industry is working in the same direction to actually address some of the priority skills issues. So this document sets out the top 4 priorities that industry needs to work on and breaks it down into actions that individuals within the industry can drive forward and lead on. So these are the 4 priorities that we think as CLC members that industry needs to be working on. And we think if we work on these priorities, then actually we'll help ease the skills crisis. The first priority is the culture of the construction industry. The construction industry isn't necessarily the most diverse industry. We tend to stick to the same pots of recruitment that we have always done, and there just isn't enough the pool isn't big enough at the moment. We need to be attracting more people into the industry. We need to be attracting more women into the industry. We need to be getting a more diverse set of people into the industry, just so we've got more pools of people joining. We need to get those numbers up and really attract everyone. So that first priority is trying to change the culture of industry to make sure that it's an industry that is attractive to everyone, and everyone comes out of school and thinks, I'm going to join construction. Which is why it's really important for institutes like the IOC to be doing events like this and to be getting people of the next generation along. Routes into industry. So once we've attracted people into the industry, we need to get them trained. So this is all about having those new routes, so apprenticeships, which is a great route, but skills boot camps, etc., and pathways to ensure that there's structures to enable people to get trained and get up to a good competence level so they can get through their education and get out onto site. Competence, so this is about ensuring that there's a definition of competence. So what does interior woodwork look like? What do you need to know? Where's that set out? And is everybody reaching that competence level? And finally, future skills. So this is saying, you know, with net zero, with modern methods of manufacture, how are we adapting as an industry to make sure we've got these new sets of skills that we need to build in the new ways that we're looking at? So this is just a breakdown of, within some of those priorities, some of the targets that we're looking at. So this is industry targets that we're wanting to achieve. To change the culture of industry, we're looking at training more employers, 3,000 employers in fairness, inclusion and respect programs. We're looking at getting people out into schools, so people working in the industry into schools, talking to new entrants. We want 600 career engagements in the next year. We're also wanting to get people to have an understanding and experience construction, so we want 28,000 work taster sessions over the next 5 years, so that's getting people from school into industry and on site to do a work experience session. We're wanting to launch an industry diversity plan, so to really look at these pools of groups of demographic that aren't necessarily attracted to construction. How do we get them in so we can up our numbers and solve the skills problems we've got? We're also looking at new platforms like Talent View Construction, worth it if no one's visited that, to have a look at that, to get more people using these online platforms. Routes into industry, that's really concentrating on apprenticeships, so how do we really get those apprenticeship starts up, but also achievement rates. We do quite good work in getting people onto apprenticeships. Sometimes people don't complete them, quite a lot of times people don't complete them actually, so that's really looking at that, at getting people through the apprenticeship into the end. More people through the FE route into construction, so you go through college and onto an apprenticeship, really ensuring people don't drop out after their college course. T-levels are new, so really pushing T-levels, and also looking at new degree apprenticeships in leadership and management, for example. How do we get more people through them? Skills for a modernised industry, so these are, as I was mentioning, the new things, so net zero, digitalisation, smart construction. We're developing some new route maps and pathways to try and define what these occupations are and ensure that people are moving through them and into these new roles in construction. But you need to know what the role is, you need to know what the pathway is when you're at school, really, to be able to embark on that journey, and that's what we're trying to do, is trying to define those pathways. Finally, competence. This is a really important area, given the Grenfell disaster that happened a few years ago. Government's really pushing on defining competence and making sure that everyone has an understanding across the board about what it means to be competent in your trade. So we're working to develop a set of competence frameworks. Some pilot competence frameworks are going to be coming out in September, and we're working with Jeff and a group from the IOC to try and develop a more specific woodwork competence framework, to try and define what it means to be competent in that occupation, so everyone across the industry knows what that is. So that's the work that we do as CLC, as an industry. What that then drops down to is everyone within the construction industry aligns their business plan to that industry plan that we've developed. So what I'm going to discuss now is what we're doing as CITB to try and address some of those issues, and Hopefully you'll see some alignment, and that's on purpose. What we try to follow CLC. CLC says to industry, this is what we need to do. We then follow that, so we're all working in the same direction. So in terms of CITB, we're really wanting to improve the people pipeline, so get people in through careers, create defined training pathways, so really define what the pathway is to get into all of these different occupations. And also, something that wasn't necessarily in the CLC plan is making sure that we've got an effective training supply. So we've got enough people, colleges, private training providers, providing the training that's actually needed across the whole of the UK. So in terms of the first priority that we've got at CITB, which is the people pipeline, what we're doing is we're really pushing things like the Go Construct website, which some of you might have had a look at. It's online, goconstruct.org, and that's really a one-stop shop for everything within the construction careers space. And the idea is that anyone who needs to understand a career in construction goes onto that Go Construct website and completely understands what they need to do and how they need to enter the industry and the pathway that they need to go through. We're supporting work experience placements and tasters, so really working with employees to get people on site to do those taster sessions. And we're also looking at retaining industry talent already through some online platforms instead of losing talent to other industries. Creating and defining training pathways. So this is where what we're doing is we're taking each occupation and really looking at the pathway and the apprenticeship standard and the route into each of those occupations. So we'll be looking at the wood trades and carpentry areas and saying, is that pathway right? Does it work correctly? And do we need to edit it or update it? Again, working with CLC to develop, and some sector groups to develop these new competence frameworks to ensure that everyone has that definition of what it means to be a joiner, for example, and everyone across industry works towards that one competence framework. And finally, training supply. As I said, what we're trying to do is really establish a network of training providers across the UK. We've already got a lot of what are called approved training organisations, so we're really trying to raise the bar of private training provision across the UK. So CITB gets ATOs to apply to become an ATO, and there's a threshold that they have to meet, and then that's on an online searchable database. So any employers that are looking to train their staff can now just go onto the CITB website, on the database, search for joinery training provision in a certain postcode area, and can find a list of trusted vetted training providers in their local area. That's the main thing that we're wanting to do with that training supply, is really set the bar for training supply and ensure that there's a searchable database, so anybody anywhere across the UK can type in the type of training provision that they need and really access it in a much easier way. Finally, just how you can get involved. Everyone from today, how can you get involved in CLC and CITB? And I would say it's really via Jeff as the representative of IOC. Jeff sits on the Construction Leadership Council. Jeff has also worked with CITB and CLC to create an IOC steering group. So that steering group is working, like I said, on the competence frameworks. But Jeff really is the representative voice of IOC. So anything really could come through Jeff. And we work with Jeff quite closely. As Jeff was saying, he's just had the CITB sponsorship money come through to be able to do that project. And we are really keen to hear and understand what's going on the ground and what the key issues are. So please do feed everything back, and we can take that on board from CLC and from CITB. And finally, just a call to action. CLC, CITB really can't deliver this plan on its own because we don't employ any, CITB, well, we have a few apprentices, but we don't employ all the apprentices that we need across the board. So it's just a few asks that really, to deliver the plan, we really need you on the ground as employers to take on an apprentice, to embrace tree levels, offer those work experience sessions, to use these platforms that are available, to get involved in FE and help support the next generation, and to become a construction STEM ambassador yourself and to go into schools and really promote the industry. So that's really just a call to action from me to say, have a read of the plan and please try and help us as an industry deliver what we need, because we really need yourselves to be engaging the next generation, employing the next generation, and really training them up. So that's it for me. Thanks for listening to that.